Da, 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 da. Hey, everybody. Come on here. I hope you've got a cup of tears to join me here. I'm having special yellow tears. It looks like orange juice, but it's tears. Let us lift a glass to 30 out of 30. Do you know what this tastes like? It tastes like victory. It tastes like being right. Being right all the time. It's a great feeling. All right, so I'm sure you've all seen the news by now that it turns out that the only crazy people were the people that were sure they could detect mental illness through magic mind powers. And you've been watching it for a while. Even professional psychiatrists were doing their diagnosis from a distance like this. I'm detecting some mental imbalance from a person I've never met at a great distance. Because I read things in the news, and the news is always accurate, you know that. Now, to their credit, the American Psychiatric Association did the unprecedented, or at least unusual, step of issuing a statement saying that you can't do that. Diagnosing a stranger with a mental illness, it's not a thing. You have to kind of know them, talk to them, test them a little bit, see them over time. But seeing it from a distance, it's not a thing. I'm not drunk, actually, or high. I don't drink, by the way. By the way, do you remember that President Obama was a cigarette smoker? Do you remember that? He did quit while he was in office, to his credit. But I remember thinking at the time that is like the worst role model ever. Now, to be fair, President Trump could lose a few pounds. Most people his age could, pretty normal. But apparently he has these magic genes that he can eat cheeseburgers, he can eat French fries, he can eat Democrats, he can eat his enemies apparently, he can eat Kim Jong-un for breakfast. No health impact whatsoever. How long will I live? Apparently forever. And if I'm wrong, I'm not going to hear about it. So, let us take stock of the number of things I got right, and I'm going to give you a little bonus lesson today on how to detect a mass hysteria from an actual news story. Now, we saw in Cuba that when the story came out that the Cuban embassy, the American embassy, was being attacked by some crazy kind of sonic device, I said to myself, boop, before any facts were out, mass hysteria. It's obvious, because, well, that one was obvious. Primarily because it would have been highly unusual for somebody to have a sonic weapon, and even more unusual that they would use the thing, given that Cuba and the United States have been slowly marching to better relations. So that didn't make any sense, but what does make sense, and would be normal, is that once people hear that it's a thing, that they start imagining, oh, this tingle I have in my elbow is probably from the sonic weapon. Oh, I've got a twitch in my eye, that's probably the sonic weapon. So that would be completely normal, because that's the way brains are organized. Now, likewise, with the, let's say the idea that ordinary people were spotting that the president was crazy and that he was running the country. Now that could have been true. He could have been crazy. But it would have been a remarkable claim, a very unusual situation. And it turns out it wasn't true. Now, at least according to one highly qualified doctor who tested him and found that he could find no problem, and he did not recommend any further testing because that one test was good enough. In other words, the test he used was designed and had been, well respected to detect even minor cognitive decline, and it didn't find any. In fact, he got 30 out of 30 right. So what's interesting is that a normal score would be 26 out of 30. So here's my question. How do you think Acosta would have done on that test? Do you think he would have gotten 30 out of 30? How about any of Trump's other critics? How do you think they would have done? 30 out of 30? Well, they're probably not crazy. I'm thinking they would have scored in the high 20s. All right. Now, what's hilarious about this is this unbroken chain of Trump's critics being wrong about just everything, and really big things which they were positive they were right about. Let's remind ourselves they were positive he wouldn't get nominated, positive he wouldn't win, positive he wouldn't have a good first year, positive he wouldn't even last the first year, positive he would be convicted for some Russia collusion thing that didn't happen. I could go on. But they were really, really sure of a lot of things, and it was like bam, 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 wrong. Today alone, we've seen that they were, according to a qualified doctor who's really the only one who can speak to it, because he's the only one who's actually, he's actually done tests with the actual president. So there's only one person in the world who's, got an opinion we should listen to, and he said, no, totally fine. In fact, he's better than fine. He's above a fine. He's above normal. Now imagine that you're a Trump detractor and you got another one wrong. And this one, just like the other ones, you weren't just a little bit sure you were right. You were really, really sure you were right. Meanwhile, all of the so-called idiots that support Trump in one way or another, including me, they figured that we were just a bunch of dumb hillbillies, and we couldn't possibly be right, and how do we not see this right in front of our eyes? Well, you're wrong again. But at the same day, just to make this fun, you all recall, and I said this before, but you all recall that I said last week, when the president said blah, 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 shithole countries, that I said, if you're saying that he has come out of the closet and he's just going to say, I don't want some countries to be, included in this merit-based system, if he's willing to say it public, in such a public meeting, even though it was a closed meeting with no cameras, it was public enough, right? That's the whole problem, is everybody's talking about it now. If he was willing to come out and just say, let's just be racist, and only take in the good people from Norway, I said to you, well, why don't you just wait until Monday? Now, I forgot it was a holiday, so I missed it by a couple of days. But I said, why don't you just ask him? Say, do you plan to take people from every country if they meet the merit standard? Or do you plan to exclude some countries like African countries and Haiti? And I said to you last week, if he says, yes, I'd like to exclude some entire countries, I said, well, that's clearly a racist. Case closed. You win. I'm wrong. Right? But If you ask him, do you mean that? And he says, again in public, because why wouldn't he? If he said it once and you think he's a person that says these things in public, he'd probably say it again. You know, do we have any history of him being shy about, things he believes? Is he politically correct? Not really. So once again he said to Jim Acosta, who should be tested for his mental fitness, that he meant it to apply to everywhere. So he was going to let people in with immigration from everywhere. Case closed. So there's somebody who says, somebody just came in and said, you would shoot yourself in the face if Trump told you to. Are you even paying attention a little bit? Have you noticed that you've been wrong about everything? Everything. You haven't been right about anything. And have you noticed that I've been right about almost everything? I told you that John Bolton would be a problematic hire for the White House because of his mustache. I got that right. I mean, look at the list of things I got right. Some of it's kind of crazy, right? Yeah. The funniest thing is that the doctor was appointed by Obama. Now, I didn't know that, but I was thinking that I would have heard in the news if he was anything less than qualified and objective. Here, somebody says, your ego is as delusional as his. Well, let me tell you, loser. What is the appropriate emotional reaction to winning everything? Sadness? Should I hide? I do this in public. You've probably noticed. Kind of a public forum. So when I get things right, you're going to hear about it. When I get things wrong, you're going to hear about it too. If I don't tell you, everybody else is going to tell you. And will I feel bad when I get things wrong? Of course I would. Shouldn't I? Shouldn't I feel bad? Imagine if I had accused the President of the United States of being mentally incompetent and then found out I was wrong. Wouldn't I feel bad about that? Wouldn't my ego be lower? Well, yes, it would. Because then I would feel like I was wrong about stuff. So those of you who have low self-esteem, who don't understand how winning works, the reason that people try to win is that it feels really good. Now, I know a lot of you have never experienced this whole winning thing, so you can't, validate my claim. But maybe talk to somebody who's ever done something successfully. If you'd like to check around, maybe fact check me. If you know anybody who knows anybody who's ever done anything right or ever been right about anything, and I know maybe your circle of friends are like you and have never been right about anything, but if you find somebody who's ever been right about something, ask them how it feels. They'll probably say it feels pretty good. Just guessing. Yes, good idea. Let us drink again. Lift our glasses to the tears of our enemies. Those are some good tears. All right, I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to go off. I'm going to go off and get some sun. I also saw on CNN, because I do check both sides. It's important to do that. You should do that too. That the president was claiming that his polling among African Americans had gone up. I guess the Quinnipiac poll said that. And then over on CNN they said he claims that his approval among African Americans has gone up, but it's not true. And then they showed the Gallup poll. You know what they didn't show? The other poll. How do you do a story about the president's claim that his approvals went up according to a specific poll and not mention the poll? Now, if they had said, this poll is reliable because, for example, it predicted that the president would win the election, that would be one way to know you have a reliable pollster. And if they said, well, this Quinnipiac thing is kind of pro-Trump, that would be good reporting. If it's true. I don't know if it's true. I think it is. I think Quinnipiac is a little leans Trump, as does Rasmussen, whereas Gallup leans the other way. But if you don't even mention the other poll, not really the news, is it? All right. Aloha for now.